Petty.
Yes. Request city manager declare a public health and safety emergency for vulnerable road users in light of 2 pedestrian crashes that killed a child and severely injured another less than 1 week apart. Councilor Hagi.
I realize that it's 11:30 and I'm the only thing standing between sleep and going back to our families, but I am going to bring Candace into the room today. And I'm going to bring her because this child was supposed to be starting school in 2nd grade this week, along with Gianna, who got killed on Shrewsbury Street. And I am going to be completely honest with this body, with you, Mr. Manager, and with you, Mr. Chair, that as tired as I am right now and as upset I am that I can't put my kids to bed, at least I get to go home to my children, my 2 boys. This mother who I met with today, Asha, and her Candace's father, shared with me that since the murder of their daughter by a resident, a motorist who is still in court, this family hasn't found justice. They shared with me how traumatized they are, how terrified they are to go on the street, how traumatized their little boy is for losing their sister. And as I sat in their living room, as I pick up the phone and call them every month to check on them, I just realized that this body that we were elected to protect our children, we were elected to protect Candace, we were elected to protect Gianna, we were elected to protect the child that is in a coma, and the toddler that's still in a coma, and the many other children who you heard from some of our constituents today have suffered. This body has neglected these children. I don't take my job lightly. I don't take my job lightly. I don't take my job lightly as a mother, and I don't take my job lightly as a city councilor. What happened today with the holding of a resolution, a non-binding resolution, that asked this body to simply declare a public health emergency, is unconscionable. It is shameful, and it is neglectful. I will never forget the amount of anger, the amount of frustration, and the amount of hurt that I see in Candace's parents. And we are sitting here at 11:30. We spent hours talking about trash, hours, issues that are important to our residents, but we don't have the courage to publicly say, to be on record, to say that this child deserves us to say on record that traffic deaths and traffic crashes that don't happen in a vacuum, that don't happen passively, are a public health and emergency. I did not ask Councilor Colorio, I did not ask any of the councilors in this room to vote on the 25 mile per hour or the safety zones policy. I asked this council to say to our residents that this child who died on our street, on Stafford Street, deserves us to say this is a public health emergency. And yet we have been dragging our feet. I haven't been dragging my feet. People in this body have been dragging their feet. This child deserves justice. This child deserves our attention. This child and other children who will die because we can't even bear to raise awareness on an issue that should create anger and anxiety and angst on all of us, is just simply unconscionable. Mr. Manager, you're about to have a second baby. And I have 2 children. And I think most people in this room are either parents or grandparents or aunties or uncles to somebody. And I don't understand why, after so many attempts, after so many calls, after a child died on our street, and a toddler is in a coma, and another kid is in a coma, that we don't have the courage and the consciousness to say this is a public health emergency. A non-binding statement. and a promise and a commitment to our children that we will do everything possible, even if that means that it's a resolution. Mr. Chair, I have made a commitment to this child, and I made a commitment to her mother, because if I was her mother and I lost my kids on the street, I would not rest a day in my life. And as long as I'm elected, and as long as I am in a position of power and influence, I will do whatever it takes to make sure that those folks have the resources that they need to do the jobs. And that I, as a mother, I, as a resident, and somebody who cares deeply about the city, do everything in my power, even if that means that I have to fight to get a resolution passed by the city council. Shame. All I'm going to say is that this is a shameful moment. It's a shameful moment. However, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of the council, and those who are listening, this shameful moment hopefully will be rectified at the next council meeting, where this body should vote unanimously on the 25 miles an hour policy, on the safety zones designation, and make sure that this child who doesn't have a seat in a classroom because she died at the hands of a reckless driver who will not get justice in the court system, this child will at least get some justice on the city council floor. I'm filing the motion, by the way.
You're going to file this?
I am going to file this, that's correct.
Okay. Council King?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was honored to sign on to this back in July, this particular matter. And I do want to say this. I appreciate the passionate advocacy that you heard just a few moments ago. And I think we've, as someone who's been on the council for a bit, it's that sort of advocacy that helps us move forward, Mr. Chairman. We've had things before us. We've had councils that's brought forward the 25 mile per hour speed limit on multiple occasions. We have folks looking to reduce speeding down to 30 miles per hour on certain streets. We have folks looking for other sorts of resolutions. For me, this was easy to support. I said this before and I'll say it again. Councilor Hadjia has championed this. The issue of vulnerable road users, going back to what happened and the loss of life, and her commitment and our commitment. It can be frustrating to be a city councilor and trying to move things forward. I'll support filing this. But I also think that as we move forward, it's going to take a multi-pronged approach. That's beacon hawk, lighting systems, crosswalks, if it's mid-block crossings, if it's looking at ordinances and legislation as an elected body to make sure that new developments are pedestrian friendly, whatever the case might be. They're all things to be considered. You know, I was asked tonight by someone in the hall about the 25 mile per hour thing, what I thought about it. And I said, well, to be honest with you, I don't like it. But this is not about me. It's about what's best for our community. It doesn't matter what I personally care for. There are moments in time as a elected official and legislator where we do what's best for the most folks that we can impact. And some of these measures before us are exactly that. 25 mile per hour is one of them. School safety zones are another, as are a host of other matters. You know, and it's unfortunate that we are here again where we as a body can't collectively do what the mayor and the city manager did in real time. I look forward to us continue to work, and there'll be times when I'm in agreement with some of the proposals and times that I won't be. But what I do know is that I think we will continue to move forward in a way that's collective and I think urgent. And I think that urgency has come from loss of life. I think it's come from the advocacy. For some people, it's not quick enough, and I understand that. So, but I'm ready to move forward, Mr. Chairman. Let's get this stuff done. Let's get these traffic matters. You know, I think part of the confusing or the conundrum is, you know, when folks are holding up one aspect of traffic calming and pedestrian and vulnerable road user safety and motorist safety as well, and then it's, you know, it's sort of a give and take. You know, I'm more inclined to, on those particular matters, let's just vote it up or down, and let's get moving, and let's keep people safe. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Ojeda?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I appreciate the energy, but I sit here with my heart racing, to be honest with you, because the word neglected was used. And being new to city council, one thing I'll never do is call out anybody on council. I'm old school, you're family to me. It is what it is. So I've definitely put in common measures. I've been working with Commissioner Raleigh since I got on, even probably before. Pleasant Street, Beacon Street, speed humps, four-way stop signs, Newberry Street, King Street, speed humps, those post blockout measures there. Main Street, we're working on Main Street to slow the traffic down on Main Street over by 1015, 1060, trying to slow down the traffic and put different signs and a lot of signage on 425 Pleasant Street where someone was hit a few months ago. So on my end, as a counselor, and again, I'm not knocking all of you. I appreciate all the work you do on a daily basis. Part-time job, full-time responsibilities. I get it. But those are the things that I've been working on because I understand these are things that are needed in District 4 in meeting with residents and understanding that. Had a neighbor meeting the other day. They want some more common measures on Elm Street. So for me, I reach out to Steve Raleigh. We sit down, we talk. If it needs to be put on a petition, we petition it. If it's an order, it's an order. If it's not, then we try to make things happen. So I just want it to be known that when I hear the word neglected, I'm not neglecting any kids, any residents, anyone in the city, young or old. So, and maybe you didn't mean it that way, but I just want to make sure that that's not, you know, unfortunately towards me, and I'm pretty sure other staff may or may not feel the same way as I feel, but there are common measures that I'm putting in place, and it does matter to me. Unfortunately, there's red tape, policies, or things that have to be held up, or whatever it may be, but I want to say, at least when it comes to that stuff, I've hit the ground running. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Russell?
Mr. Chairman, you know, I feel for this family. I feel for all the folks who have died from traffic accidents in the city of Worcester. You know, but make no mistake about it. The counselor that held this item at the last meeting had every right in the world to hold this item. He had questions, there were legitimate questions of the law department of whether this would mean, by voting on that item, whether it would turn it over to a different department or whatever. He had legitimate questions, and he had every right in the world to hold it. The counselor that held the item tonight, the resolution that seems to cover everything of all these different issues we've discussed, has every right to hold the item that she has held this evening, because it's going before her committee. She's had it in her committee. The report just came back today from the public input, the public survey that they asked for. And for us to vote on that resolution, I could see her hesitation, because it's like saying, we're deciding it all. And Mr. Chairman, let me speak. I didn't speak while you spoke.
Please,
I
Sam.
didn't speak while you spoke,
Let's just-
and I'm going to ask that you give me the same courtesy I gave you. The narrative in this community that somehow that we're going to just take one vote and we're going to save all these, we're going to cure all these problems is not accurate. It's just not accurate. I've asked the police department, and I've asked the traffic and mobility department and our city staff to give me a list of all the traffic fatalities in recent years and the reasons for those accidents. And I have this list. I'm sure many of you probably have the same information. I'll be happy to let Erica in the city council office share that list with every one of you. I asked to highlight on this list of fatalities all the streets in yellow that would be exempt under the 25-mile-an-hour rule. Southwest Cutoff, Route 20, all these other major streets where we have fatality after fatality will be exempt from a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. The ones in green are exempt right now from the 25-mile-an-hour. And Stafford Street is one of them. We can take a vote, from what Mr. Rowley tells me, we can take a vote as a council to ask the state to approve, to override that, to include those 25-mile-an-hour zone or the 30-mile-an-hour zone. But at this present time, that they're not bound by it. The blue ones on this list, plenty of colors on this list, folks. The blue ones on this list were medical emergencies. Medical emergencies and medical happenings that ended in a fatality. We're not going to solve medical issues with a vote for 25 miles an hour. And Mr. Chairman, with all due respect to everyone involved, one of the accidents that I think of is the one at 1059 Grafton Street, where the speeder was going 103 miles an hour. He wasn't going 30. He wasn't going 35. He wasn't going 40. In fact, the one on Stafford Street, the person was going 47 miles an hour on Stafford Street, 47 miles an hour. You know, I'm going to look at this item. I have, to be honest with you, I haven't decided how I'm going to vote on it. I want the information that the Traffic and Parking Committee is going to provide. I want to listen to that information. I want to listen to the information the Traffic and Mobility Department is providing. And when we take that vote, I'll make that decision at that time. But I just want to say one thing. A 25-mile-an-hour zone or any one thing is not going to cure this problem. We have to roll up our sleeves, and we have to depend on our department, our Traffic and Mobility Department, and our administration to take the leadership on that. Because with all due respect to all my colleagues, myself included, I'm not a traffic engineer, and I'm not a city manager, and neither of any of us. I had items on the agenda tonight talking about signs and signage on Greenwood Street. Councilor King had some ideas, all legitimate ideas. Councilor Carlson had a bunch, all legitimate ideas, but we're not traffic engineers. We're not police officers. We're not, you know, this is where we're counting on the staff to put together this whole thing. And I applaud the manager and his administration for making an effort. But the narrative in the community and the narrative sometimes in this room, the 25 mile an hour is going to solve all of our problems, is not accurate.
Okay. It's getting late tonight, and Councilmember Carlson.
Mr. Chairman, every one of us is elected in our own right, and every one of us has what we believe is the right thing by those who we represent. And as Councilor Ojeda said, I'm not neglectful either. I got to tell you something. As I sit in this chair and think about the loss of life in my district, and I'm going to tell you something, one life is far too many. But I'm going to say to people, think about what I've been through in District 2. How many lives have been lost there? Again, any life that we lose in this community is one too many. Again, there isn't any one of us who hasn't been working diligently on a regular basis with whether it's the manager or whether it's the Department of Transportation and Mobility, and asking for reports and doing our homework and raising funds for those who are laying in the hospital in a coma for their families so that they can go and visit. I don't think that this council is neglectful. I do think at times, do we have differences of opinions? We absolutely do. But the one thing that we should always remember is be respectful. I'm not neglectful to my district in any manner, shape, or form. I work extremely hard, and I feel for all of my constituents and for their families who are there and still going to visit their toddler who's 20 months old in Boston, who still has not come out of a coma, for the people on Lincoln Street who are still in the hospital, for the loss of Gianna's life, and for our Shrewsbury Street young woman who is still in a coma. There isn't one city councilor or this city manager or anybody in this administration who finds any of this acceptable. We're all trying to do the best we can as quickly as we possibly can. But you know what? Unfortunately, we can't fix it overnight. And again, I just got to say, I don't like when somebody says that we're neglectful. Every person in this room, in this chamber, has held items, okay? Nobody likes it when it happens, but it is our right. It is our right as an elected official. And you know what? Why is it it's good sometimes and sometimes it's not? Sometimes it's neglectful and sometimes it's not. Why? I think it's an unfair statement to say that we're neglectful with all of the items and with all of the work with the manager and the mayor and the Department of Transportation and Mobility. Again, it's been a long night, and it is really unfortunate what's happening in our community, and we as the leaders are here to fix it.
Okay, thank you. So,
Mr. Chairman, it's midnight.
I know, this is the last item. So I think we all can say that we care greatly about the city and about the safety of our city, and we are going to make a motion, and the motion is roll call.